What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Washington Brawl podcast, the Washington football team podcast for the people, by the people. I am your host, Parker Hamlet, joined by everybody's favorite Logan Thomas enthusiast, Chris Fowler, and Washington Brawl insider, Owen Smith. On today's episode, we're looking to Cleveland as the Washington football team takes on the also 1-1 Cleveland Browns. Guys, I think it's safe to say both teams don't have much of an identity yet. And honestly, it's a coin flip as to who will actually come up on top here. Where's your guys' confidence level heading into Sunday's matchup?
I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's just back and forth. It's the coin flip concept you were just talking about. I think I go back to week one. The team we thought we had in week one. It's like, oh man, we could definitely beat the Browns. I mean, of all people, the Browns, we can beat them. And then I go back to how we looked against Arizona. It's like I'm not so sure anymore. So I'm definitely wishy-washy on it, and I'm just trying to stay confident about it all.
Owen?
I think it's kind of 50-50. At this point, honestly, it would be like, oh yeah, cool, we won against the Browns. That's nice. But if we lose too, I'm kind of expecting it. And like at this point, it's kind of 50-50. I can say that Baker, after he comes off of a win, is a different type breed of confidence and swagger that most quarterbacks don't have.
And when I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
So that can play a part. That can go very positive or very negative, depending on if we can get in his head or not.
I know we bashed the Cardinals last week, but I feel like this game is extremely winnable. And I feel like both teams are in very similar situations. They both need a win to put them over 500, and they're both in very competitive divisions. The Browns were a team a year back that had a lot of hype after trading for Odell Beckham Jr., a guy who we're familiar with in the NFC East. But despite their star-studded roster, they finished 6-10 and cleaned house. The Browns then hired former Vikings offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski to be their next head coach, who echoed a similar sentiment this week of many head coaches that we have faced so far this season. And that sentiment is the Washington football team's defense is something that makes him very nervous. He was quoted in saying that any unit that can secure 11 sacks in 2 weeks is certainly a formidable group.
Defensively, 11 sacks in 2 games gets your attention immediately. They're just a really good front, really good defensive team speed across the board.
I mean, Cliff Kingsbury said last week that the defense gave him anxiety, quote unquote. How much do you guys buy his comments, and do you think they're genuine?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this defense definitely worries other, head coaches and offensive coordinators. I mean, it should. This front seven can disrupt any offense. It's just how do you beat them? And I think Cliff Kingsbury gave the blueprint to other OCs going forward on how to beat us. That's getting the ball out quick and having a quarterback that can, escape those sacks. That like I said, I think Kyler Murray left multiple sacks out on the field last week just by his escape ability. I mean, I know Chase Young would have had him for 1 or 2 more than what he did. And those he wasn't able to bring them down because of Kyler's quickness. So the key to beating our defense is getting the ball out quick. Look, you're not going to have much of a running game. I'm going to say that straight up. Before Chase Young, opposing teams didn't have much of a run game. But now I don't think they really are at all. You're going to have to work the quick slant game, the quick screen game. And when you do have protection, see, the one part of our defense that can really beat us is secondary. So if they have any time at all, they're going to beat us over the top, I feel like. And, we come off of a game where we saw, probably one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL and, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, to where while it's probably not top tier in Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, it's still pretty high up there. So, we're looking at a similar offense in terms of weapons. It's just going to be, Baker's escapability, I think it comes down to.
The Washington football team does have the highest graded defense in the NFL throughout the beginning of this season. Owen, do you believe in Stefanski's comments, or do you feel like this is just a facade he's giving to the media?
Well, I don't think it's a facade given to the media. I think it's kind of special, honestly, because if you look at prior years, the media wasn't talking about us at all. Now they're actively asking the head coaches of the opposing team, like, this Washington defense is kind of scary. What do you think? This isn't oh yeah, the other team played so well type of league. The NFL has never been everyone gets a trophy league. It's hard-nosed, it's tough, it's built of steel. And so the Stefanski, even though he's first-time head coach, I don't think he's making this stuff up. I think he's giving an honest answer when it comes to our defense.
It did kind of feel like one of those answers that, people just routinely say to the media. I mean, you look at the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick could be playing against the Miami Dolphins. led by God knows whoever at quarterback. But he would always say, "Oh, well, they have a great young team, great young offense. He's going to make them sound like they're Super Bowl contenders. Then he's going to walk in and beat them by 30 points." I don't think that's what's going to happen here.
Belichick has never said that many words in an interview before ever. So,
what was the atmosphere like in the stadium without fans there? Can you compare it to anything else that you've experienced in your football life?
Practice.
And he's never beaten Miami by 30 points. They usually win at home.
Are they usually below the lead to Miami? I mean, there's some interesting history there. I mean, you're right. Belichick is normally pretty short with them, but the point still stands. It makes you wonder how much of this is actual hype and how much of this is actually people, schematically preparing for this defense. We're all homers. We're a Washington Football Team podcast, so you don't want to give yourself this false sense of security, because at the end of the day, the Cardinals did hang 30 on us, and we can't act like that didn't happen. There is some context there, but this defense is definitely on their heels. I know Chris said something about us being able to stop the run, and that was something that we were quite known for, going into last week, but then we allow the Cardinals to get 5 yards per carry. That definitely wasn't.
That's included in Kyler Murray scrambling, though.
Fair, but Kenyon Drake and Edmonds also both had very good days. And you're right, run defense up to this point has been very stout for the Washington Football Team, but I mean, that was very uncharacteristic-like. And this is probably one of the worst weeks we could possibly be going into, having a weak rush defense against the two-headed monster they have over in Cleveland. But, I mean, let's talk numbers. Chase Young leads all rookies with an 81.1 grade, according to PFF. He's actually also tied. I didn't know this. He's tied for TJ Watt leading the NFL in sacks. So, I mean, that's an impressive number, man.
Was that 2.5?
2.5, yeah.
Yeah, they're both at 2.5.
So I know this isn't really the subject, but we can go ahead and say Chase Young is making his point for breaking that rookie sack record.
Absolutely.
He's looking really good out the gate.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's exactly what we expected. And I mean, for you to be in the same company as a guy like TJ Watt, who is a part of an elite Steelers defense, I mean, that's some great company you're in. Speaking of highly ranked people, the Browns were also the second highest rated team in the NFL in pass blocking last week. Do you guys see them slowing down Chase Young, or do you guys think he's going to have just as much of an impact as he's had in every game so far?
Well, you gotta look at Cincinnati Bengals. Like, sure, they have Geno Atkins at defensive line.
This is the NFL.
This is the NFL, yes, but sure they have Geno Atkins, which is probably one of the best defensive linemen in the league if you look at the history of his career. But as of late, he hasn't really shown up in the past 2 seasons. He's been a name that's kind of like, oh yeah, you kind of watch him on film and you're like, oh yeah, he's there. But if you look like highlights, he doesn't have many highlights. He doesn't put up that many statistics. He puts up pressures, but no sacks, no stopping the runs really.
But Chase Young's already making that impact for the Washington Football Team.
Yeah, and the Bengals defensive line was never great, and seeing that we have an all-around almost, I'm going to go and say elite defensive line, like a top 5 right now if you look at all the players. Kerrigan was not a participant in practice today, which is something to watch. But for the rest of the squad on the defensive line against the Browns offensive line, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
I mean, over the offseason, everybody knows if you watch a Cleveland Browns game last year, their offensive line was terrible. It was really evident early in the season in that San Francisco 49ers game. After they traded, I want to say it was Kevin Zeitler to the New York Giants, part of that, I want to say the Odell deal. I'm not too sure. It already feels like it was forever ago. Anyway, that offensive line needed a complete revamp, and it got one. They signed right tackle Jack Conklin from Tennessee. They actually drafted Tristan Wirfs, I think that's who they took. Jedrick Wills. I'm sorry. I always get those two mixed up. Jedrick Wills at left tackle. They're good at guard, good at center. I mean, across the board, their offensive line improved dramatically. It doesn't really surprise me that they were the highest ranked in week 2. Chris, what about you? Do you think they're going to be able to slow Chase Young down, or do you think he's going to have just as much of an impact as he's had every week?
I think he'll have the same amount of impact. And I said this last week too. We forget that he's a rookie. We truly forget that he's a rookie because I look at his stats. I'm like, sack and a half, sack in week 2. He could do better than that. So I think against he went against Jason Peters, and then he went. I'm not sure. It was rookie left tackle for the Cardinals, I believe, too.
They were not stout across that offensive line. They were just as banged up as we were, also in their backup center as well.
I still give all the props to the game plan for slowing down Chase Young, not their offensive line. So it really depends on how the Browns plan to attack this defense in this game, if they want to go to the same strategy as quick pass and stuff like that. But I think overall, no matter what they do, Chase Young is still going to have the same impact. He's going to have an equivalent impact to what he's had thus far, and truly, I believe he'll have even more of an impact. I think it was hard to see. It was weird to see Chase Young get 1 sack last week, but we still felt like it wasn't his best game. Like it wasn't the Chase Young we were expecting. He wasn't the force that we thought he'd be.
Like Owen said, it's his floor. I mean, we have even seen the best he has to offer.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great way to put it.
So even if this is his worst game, we can consider last week his worst game. I think he'll at least match that, if not do substantially better in week 3.
He's on a track right now for a 17 sack season.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of the pace we're on right now. It sounds like we're beating a dead horse over here, but I feel like just the level he's playing at right now deserves talk week in and week out. And I see him having a lot of the same impact against the Cleveland Browns. But staying on the defensive side of the ball, Ron Rivera spoke to the media today and actually got defensive about his starting free safety, Troy Apke, who had a pretty rough outing in week 2 against Arizona. For anybody who didn't catch the game, I'm sure Chris will throw something up, give you guys a little bit of a glimpse as to how bad of a day Troy Apke really had.
Who tested positive for COVID-19. Now the Snyders both tested negative, but along with doctors, decided to exercise caution and stay home. Dick.
And he is watching Andy Isabella make a great catch on television, not being here, and a huge gain. That's the longest pass play of the season for Murray thus far.
Watch the double move now, and really they're just trying to get Isabella, who's got a ton of speed, up on the safety. Troy Apke, who's also fast, but it's tough when you don't get out of your back pedal in time.
Rivera was quoted in saying he didn't play as well as he's capable of, but he didn't play as bad as many people think he did.
Well, nobody understands the words that are coming out of your mouth, man.
A couple plays, thank goodness Troy was there to make the tackle. A lot of people want to point a finger at a person without knowing. Guys, do you agree with Coach Rivera about Troy Apke? Honestly, this is the first time I've ever disagreed with him about anything.
Well, yeah, honestly, I do. I think that the fans and the media and everyone that has considered themselves a WFT fan, put it in their bio, whatever on Twitter, is looking for a scapegoat right now.
Remember, it wasn't me. They're trying to make me an scapegoat.
I think he's the easiest scapegoat in the defense. You look at our defensive line, you're like, we have Chase Young, we have Jonathan Allen. There's no way we can blame it on them. It just seems stupid. We look at our defensive backs, where you're like, I mean, technically in Kendall Fuller and Darby, we have 2 guys that are Super Bowl champions, and then we look at Cameron Curls, who's like second right now in pass deflections for rookies, or something crazy like that. And thank you. And like you look at all these people, you're like, I mean, the only person we can blame on defense is Troy Apke, just because of like the couple tackles he's missed. So I think yes, he played bad, but I think he's also the scapegoat for the majority of the problems.
I will say calling him a scapegoat kind of gives you a sense that he's getting blame that isn't warranted, whereas most people are saying that he completely deserves all of it. I definitely think he's the weakest link on that defense. Chris, do you agree with Coach Rivera's comments?
In Ron we trust. That's what we've been saying, and that's what I want to stand by. But it is hard to jump on this train. And I will say this. I mean, Ron Rivera said from the get-go, in his introductory press conference, he said, "Look, if you do as I say and you do as his coaching staff tells you to do, and you fail, I will never blame you. If you do as we say and you succeed, then the credit is all yours."
And this is the thing I'm going to ask from the players. Do it the way we teach you. Do it the way we ask. You do it that way, the success will be yours. Okay? You do it that way, the success will be yours. If you don't, success is going to be yours, but it's not going to be right. Why? Because if you fail, it's on you. Do it our way. Do it the right way. And if we fail, it's on me. Okay, it'll be on me, the head coach. It's that simple. And I truly believe that. If I ask of you and it doesn't work, I'm to blame.
We remember him saying that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the game he's pulling. I mean, maybe he's saying, Apke wasn't in the wrong because he was doing exactly what Rivera and Del Rio wanted him to do. But when you're, have an opportunity to tackle Kyler Murray at the 5-yard line, and instead he jukes right by you, and I know Kyler is elusive, but it was just a poor tackle attempt by Troy Apke. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, but we also got to remember where Apke was taken in the draft and the history Apke
But he's
had.
starting. But he's starting, and he beat
starting.
out Sean
Yeah,
Davis.
so is Dwayne. We can't say 1 week that, oh my goodness, Dwayne has had such an incredible. We got to give him time to develop, and we got to give him time to work, and
That's
then throw the
also
blame
fair.
on Apke because they've honestly had kind of the same career. It's Jay Gruden. He was injured. It's Jay Gruden again on the bench. No one's third string under Evert, right? No one's giving him any time to work or develop under bad coach. The same transition Dwayne's had into the Rivera era, and this is all of a sudden he's starting the spotlight and all of a sudden starting. Yeah, he's starting, cool, but we got to give him time to develop. This is his second game starting.
I agree with that, and I definitely see the truth in that. And I think one problem is that we kind of had expectations for Troy Apke coming in this season because the media talked about how great he was in camp.
He's lining people up in training camp.
And the fact that he beat out Sean Davis, who was a free agent that this coaching staff brought in for this position, and he beat him out. I just feel like we probably had high expectations for Apke, but I'm getting some real Reed Dowdy vibes off of him, and I don't know. Like I agree with you, Owen. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for only being his second game, but I just think sometimes it comes down to just pure tackling ability, and when he can't tackle Kyler Murray, when
not many people can
you're right.
tackle
You're right.
Kyler Murray.
It's a hard stance to take, but I think we can honestly say that he's blowing plays. Like he's definitely a liability back there. And like that's just not something you can have on the team. I don't know. I'm not saying on the team, but I just feel like that's definitely an area for concern in this situation.
I mean, Landon Collin got finessed. I mean, and you don't see people, putting him on a spike. I mean, I do like
you last podcast.
I do feel like Troy Apke is unfairly being criticized by certain individuals. But to me, it's not even just his tackling. To me, it's his coverage. There were so many instances where he was just nowhere near the play when he was that over-the-top help.
Absolutely. We've seen him getting burnt multiple times.
And, he's running around like an idiot with his arms swinging by his side, watching balls sail past him. I'm not even talking about just the Kyler Murray run. I'm talking about coverage. And as a player who came out of the combine, you got Deion Sanders blushing. With your speed, you should be able to close in and give your freaking corners some help. At the end of the day, Chris is right. He is a starting corner. But also, at the same time, this is week 2. Let's try not to be too knee-jerky. Let's give Wonder Bread some time. In Rivera, we trust. But I will say this is the first time I've definitely rolled my eyes at a Ron Rivera comment. I will say that.
Let me say this. I think that from what I know about the coaching staff and what I've seen in Apke, he's playing a completely different set of scheme fits in this defense. He used to be that guy that would just kind of swoop in and get a ball or hit the runner in the mid or the flat. He used to be he used to be a Cameron Curl type guy. Now he's all of a sudden playing deep. If you threw Cameron Curl in the deep right now, he would fail just like Apke is.
Maybe Apke should have never left that position.
Well, no, because he wants it more than anyone else that we had. He wanted more than Sean Davis. He's willing. He wants to progress, and we've seen him progress at a level that, like right now, yeah, he's not looking good because we're looking at all the negatives that he's put up. If you look at the positives too, dude is on his second game, and he's already he's made some plays. He's hit some runners. He's done the job that some free safeties can't do.
Rivera did say that.
So he's doing his job. Sure, it's not well, but he's doing it. And for his second game, as his first time starting, we got to say, okay, let's give him some grace.
This is my last point on Troy Apke, unless y'all want to continue more on him. But I kind of agree with Owen. It is time to give him develop, and we talk about how Dwayne needs time to develop. Maybe Apke's in the same boat. But you look at Philly in week 1. I don't know if you all remember, but right before halftime, Doug Peterson called those timeouts, so we thought it was dumb because there was only like 20 seconds left, and Philly had it deep in their own territory. And Wentz throws a bomb. I don't even know who it was to, but and he just beat Apke by a mile. If he makes that catch and scores if he makes that catch, he scores a touchdown, and now it's a completely different ball game. We don't come back and win that game, I don't feel like. So in that instance, if Wentz makes one good throw, you can look at it and say Apke cost us that game. Now, not as a whole. You don't blame an entire loss on one player, but in that instance, that play could have come down to winning us or losing us the ball game.
I mean, and this is the last thing I'll say too. The Saints blame Marcus Williams for not hitting Stephon Diggs. How can you say that's not on one player? In that instance, it is on one player.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're kind of like going on a tangent here, but I guess your argument could be that the Saints could have put up 2 more touchdowns, or they could have had more successful drives throughout the game, and then it wouldn't be in that situation. You wouldn't be in that situation. So that's kind of what I'm saying. It's not a one player, but in a league like the NFL, games are competitive. It is hard to win games. So there's going to be screw ups, and sometimes games come down to one play. And if Wentz doesn't overthrow that ball to Jalen Reagor, who beat Troy Apke straight up, then we lose that game and we're sitting here 0-2. So, I mean, yeah, we can talk about Apke, give him time to grow and develop and everything. And Ron obviously sees something in him. But I've seen him make too many mistakes, especially in the role like safety.
I do think like I said, this is it. But Owen is right. Apke has made plays here and there. He's been there. He's made some tackles. He's been in, and like Rivera said, he's been in a couple spots where you kind of look around and you're like, oh man, well, I'm really glad Apke was there because it looked like no one else was within sight. So Apke has shown some things, in my opinion, to earn his keep, but he cannot play consistently like he is right now, especially like his week 2 performance, and expect to be the starting safety throughout the season. At some point, someone else is going to come in if he's consistently getting used like that. I mean,
Kendall Fuller is going to take a 75-50% of his snaps right off the bat.
And that's exactly what I think everybody wants to happen. And that's actually exactly what we're moving on to. Something that Rivera was hopeful about, and it's something we can all get behind, and Rowan just brought it up, and it's that Kendall Fuller practiced and was not on the injury report for the first time since the season started. He did say that it is hard to know what to expect going forward for a player who's been out for a while once he returns to practice. Chris, how did the news make you feel? You expect Kendall Fuller to start on Sunday?
God, I hope so, because we need him. This defense needs him, and I don't know if he's going to make the huge impact that we're kind of expecting, but this defense is good, man. They're solid, especially at the front 7. Our weak spot is definitely secondary, and Kendall is going to help out that spot a lot right off the bat. Kendall is he was a huge free agency acquirement, and we need to see him produce. I mean, like Owen said earlier, he's a Super Bowl winning cornerback. He made one of the plays of the game in that Super Bowl. He's definitely got the talent.
Interception.
He's definitely got the talent. He's definitely got the ability. And, I think I said this last week or in the preview pod earlier, I don't want to push him to his max because we need him healthy for the long haul. So I'm happy to have him back, but I'm definitely going to keep an eye on him, and I'm definitely going to be a little weary as the game goes on because if I see 29 laying down on the ground after play, it's going to be heartbreak, man.
Yeah, I mean, we need him for the long haul. And Owen has a great point in him being able to possibly come in and play some safety. I know he's known for being a corner, but I mean, he can play on the slot, he can play on the outside. He'd immediately be the best safety on our roster, in my opinion. You line him up beside Landon Collins, who also has had a rough start to the 2020 season. Owen, how did the Kendall Fuller news make you feel? Do you anticipate his return sooner rather than later?
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm very happy. Kendall, for some reason, I wish I knew more about his injury. I wish there was something else they could give us because it was just kind of very random, right? There was nothing through camp. There was no news through camp. Week 1 rolls around. Oh, Kendall's not playing. Oh, cool. Why? We kind of gave him a big deal. Why is he not playing? And then week 2, yeah, he's going to play. It's no problem. Oh, no, he's not playing. Why is this happening? What's happening with our star defensive back? I wish we knew more because I feel bad for judging him for not being on the field because who knows, dude? He could have been in a lot of pain. But at the same time, we don't know anything. And so I'm kind of going to judge because we needed him on the field. And so I wish, yes, we need him for the long haul, but
I think that's when the "in Ron we trust" thing kicks in. I think that does come down to like a whole tactical kind of mindset, whereas like they don't want other teams to know what's going on with Kendall because I feel like once they do, it definitely benefits them. What do you think about that, Chris?
I'm looking at an article right now, and it's still very, very broad. It's definitely not exactly just explaining exactly what's going on.
Owen's right. It's been on the wraps.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we have kind of like got the vibe from the get-go that Rivera is not one who likes to discuss injuries a lot. Like you just don't hear him talk about it. He doesn't really have that press conference that's
He's
truly
like, ask the player, not me.
Yeah. So, but I seen this article here. It says he was dealing with a knee injury for most of camp. So I guess he just wasn't 100% ever during camp, which definitely worries me even more going into the season because if he was dealing with most of a camp, it was obviously lingering a little bit. I feel like we saw him on the field. He was mic'd up one practice, excuse me, and so like he was out there. So was it like he came back for a little bit and then he re-injured it and took a few days off and felt better? So I don't know. It just seems like one of those like nagging little injuries that I really hope they nipped in the bud this time by extending him for 2 weeks. and I hope he can come out fully 100%. But it is definitely worrisome, and it's so weird that we have no idea what's going on with him.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, we're already gone, 2 weeks without him playing now, so I'm honestly kind of used to it. And our defense has done some good things without him on the field, but I definitely feel like you guys said, he was the biggest free agent signing of the offseason, and he's somebody we needed to come in and contribute immediately. We haven't had that, but the sooner it happens, the better, especially for this defense. It's already ranking pretty high in the NFL.
Look, I know this isn't Washington football team related, but did y'all guys see the news about Tyrod Taylor?
Dude got his lung punctured by the doctor.
Is that not the wildest thing you've ever heard? I mean, it sounds like he should be in Washington. Like, that's a Washington thing to happen.
I feel bad for the doctor and Tyrod. I probably should feel worse for Tyrod Taylor because he's going to get his job taken by Justin Herbert, who went absolutely off. Which, I mean, I'm a firm believer in starting first-round quarterbacks anyway. I don't believe in sitting them. If you think what you got is great and you want to invest in a guy, you put him in there. Either he has or he doesn't. Trial by fire. I mean, that's what the Colts did with Luck. That's what the Eagles did with Wentz. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think it was just the way things were meant to happen. I mean, Herbert went off. Herbert gets a week of preparation. He wins that game against the Chiefs. I mean, they were one lob ball away with that on that Tyreek Hill play, and Patrick Mahomes and that team does not come out of that game with a victory.
Poor Tyrod, man.
Poor Tyrod.
Here's what I also think, though. I think that if the Chiefs get a week worth of preparation, then it wouldn't have been a close game. I think that they weren't expecting Herbert.
Over here.
Whoa. Let me say this. I had Herbert going before Tua in the draft, and I have believed that Herbert will forever be the better quarterback long-term, short-term. I think he's better than Tua. Which
I hate to say this. I saw Herbert make some throws in that game that I've never seen.
I love Herbert. I love Herbert. I'm so in on him. Last year he was supposed to go top 10 pick and he didn't declare. This year he finally declared. I'm so happy he went. I'm not a Herbert hater. I just think that the Chiefs defense, if they would have known who they were dealing with when they walked in the door, instead of it happening 30 minutes before the game, it wouldn't have been as close as it was.
That works both ways, though. If Herbert gets more time to study that tape, I don't know. This isn't Cheese Brawls, and this isn't Chargers Brawl. And honestly, this has been an embodiment of Tyrod's career because you brought up Tyrod, and we're already talking about the other guys. If what happened wasn't traumatic. So poor Tyrod, man. He had a good run in Buffalo. He got to get a ring with the Ravens. I mean, overall, he's had a good pro career, but wishing him
Nathan Peterman took his job.
Oh man, wishing him a fast and speedy recovery. Speaking of people who are in the process of making fast and speedy recoveries, some who also did not practice for the Washington football team: Ryan Kerrigan with his toe, Thomas Davis with his illness, quote unquote, Sadiq Charles with a knee. As usual, he's on his bike. Cole Holcomb also with a knee problem, Ryan Anderson with a knee problem, and Steven Sims Jr. also a foot issue. Out of all these names, who alarms you guys the most?
Kerrigan.
For me personally, it's Steve Sims.
Okay, why?
Okay, for me personally, Steve Sims. It's just that we're so weak at that position, and although Steven Sims has not produced so far in 2 weeks that I thought he would, he's definitely an integral part of this system. That if this offense is going to succeed, we need a guy like Sims in there. I mean, who do we go to at this point?
Isaiah Wright, baby.
Come on, man. We got Isaiah Wright.
Wright, baby.
Honestly, the most ideal thing that can come out of this week is if Sims doesn't play, AGG finally sees the field for more than 10 snaps.
Nah, he's still being on the bench. He has 3 most. I think they put in Isaiah Wright. I want to see the undrafted free agent rookie replace the undrafted free agent. That was
no love for Cam Sims, who just got an active roster spot.
Yeah, but it's different positions. Sims Jr. played slot. Isaiah Wright plays slot. You can't put in a 6, whatever how tall Cam the other Sims is. I think he's a monstrous man. Dude should play
Sims for Sims,
end.
straight up.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can't put up a tight end tall, huge monstrous man that Sims, who usually plays special teams, is in for Sims Jr. It just doesn't work like that. Slots are small and they're quick.
The only production we've seen from the wide receiver group is Terry. That has been it. From the entire receiving core, it's just been Terry. So if we don't have Sims, that's just another option off the table from an already very weak wide receiving core. I think if we lose Kerrigan, that's definitely it's definitely gonna hurt us a bit. But
it's gonna hurt us a lot.
You still have Sweat.
A lot.
You still have Sweat and Chase. So
Well, that's the thing. You have Sweat and Chase that come off fresh because they have that availability to switch out with Kerrigan. If you're putting Sweat and Chase on both ends constantly with no breaks because Kerrigan comes in and you don't have that fresh rotation, they're going to get quicker. They're going to get tired quicker, and it's going to be a problem.
I can understand that point of view, but at the same time, if you go back and watch the tape from last week, Kerrigan's pursuit on Murray was almost non-existent. I understand that you think Montez Sweat and Young come off the sideline fresh because of guys like Ryan Kerrigan, but it's just when we're facing these young up and coming quarterbacks like your Lamar Jacksons, like your Kyler Murrays, like your Carson Wentz's. Well, I mean, Kerrigan did have a little bit of a success against him, but I mean, Ryan Kerrigan just looks kind of lost in the shuffle on a lot of those plays.
Well, if you look at the play against the Cardinals, they didn't have Kerrigan in as much and chasing the quarterback as much and all that because they were pulling Young and they were pulling Sweat, and they would every 30% of their snaps they would pull off to the flat, which made zero sense to me. They were I don't want Chase Young playing flat. That sounds like a horrible idea so it didn't make sense, but it's what happens. And so why would you put your 30-year-old defensive end in the flat? It doesn't make sense. So that's why he wasn't doing that much because they needed the young guys to play the weird schemes that they had going on.
I just don't think losing him would hurt us detrimentally. If anything, there's one name that stood out to me. It's Thomas Davis. Kevin Pierre-Louis had a great game last week. Very highly rated linebacker.
Second highest.
Yeah, second highest according to PFF. When is Thomas Davis going to see the field? I mean, it's illness this week. I'm really confused with what's going on there. Owen, do you have any on that?
I don't have anything information-wise. I do have opinion, though, if you want to hear that.
Hit me.
Okay, so Thomas Davis was never going to be – he did great on the Chargers last year, 100 tackles, I think.
Led the team in tackles.
Something crazy like that. Congratulations to him, still putting up numbers in this late in his career. But at the same time, I think Ron just really needed a leader in the locker room. That's why he was put here. We have some great culture that we can build off of. And people like Ronald Darby, which isn't being talked enough culture-wise, and because he's a Super Bowl winning corner, and you have Kendall Fuller, who's a Super Bowl winning corner, and it's crazy because I guess they just need a veteran presence in the locker room.
Yeah, honestly, the veteran presence to me is really important. I think that's what they want for him. I mean, he's very reminiscent of London Fletcher. London Fletcher was that kind of leader in the locker room for the Washington football team for a very long time. Speaking of injuries, though, we finally know the extent of right guard Brandon Scherf's injury. He's been placed on the IR for at least 3 weeks, maybe 5. Rivera said the injury was positive, but the fact is that this is the third straight season he's gone to IR. Owen, do you attribute this injury to COVID and the lack of a preseason/offseason, or do you think it's safe to label Scherf as injury prone at this point? I mean, he is playing for a new deal after all.
I'm going to be honest. This is going to be one of the most unpopular opinions you'll hear on the podcast from me, but I've never been high on Scherf. It could just because he's always not had the talent around him to show up, right? Like the best guards show up when there's the best talent around them. A good center, a good tackle. Look at the Eagles' offensive line. When you had Kelsey and Peters next to Brooks showed up. That's just how it worked for their offensive line. A good guard needs a good tackle and a good center. We've never had that here. So it's kind of made Scherf look overrated, in my opinion. He hasn't had that much impact, just him. He's not really deserving of how much we're paying him this year. Something crazy like
he's on the tag, so I mean he's making damn near
16
top guard money. Yeah, you're close.
Yeah,
to
some nuts like that. I don't think he's deserving of that.
The price is wrong.
He's injury prone. He's gone down in game. Like this is IR we're talking about. We're not going to talk about the times he's gone out for several snaps during games because he's been injured, which is just crazy because I know as a fan that's been to games and watched them in person, I'll text some formerly Redskins today, Jordan. I'll be like, hey, Scherf just went down. He's like, again? I'm like, yeah, dude, it happens all the time. If Washington fan for the season, Scherf going down is nothing new to you.
It's just something that I'm too used to seeing to the point where if we were to move on, I don't think it would hurt us too much. I'll tell you a situation it really, really reminds me of, and it's Jordan Reed. When Jordan Reed is healthy, he's amazing. He's one of the best players on the Washington football team. But if he can't stay on the field, then what is he worth? I mean, at Brandon Scherf's best, he is a Pro Bowler. But do I think he deserves to make Zach Martin money? No. I just don't think he deserves to make Zach Martin money. I think Zach Martin is too much of a constant for that Dallas offensive line. And like I said, at his best, he's a top right guard in the NFL. But at the end of the day, you can't guarantee all that money to someone yearly and take up that much of your cap space with somebody that you just can't depend on to be on the field. Like I said, it's the third time in 3 seasons that he has gone to the IR. And whether that be for a few weeks or not, at the end of the day, that hurts the team dramatically. And Rivera did say he liked how Wes Schweitzer stood in. But he didn't really give as much insight as to who the starters would be this Sunday. Who do you see?
I really like Schweitzer.
I did too. I think he filled in well, and I think he did some good things. But who do you see as a starting 5 offensive lineman coming Sunday?
Starting 5.
I know it's a tough question, but I mean,
Deron Christian is left tackle. We know that much. Left guard. Sadiq's still out because of injury, and I don't think he's going to be starting left tackle even when he's healthy. He's missed too much time going into camp and too many reps to be considered an automatic start. Left guard, who do we have playing this week for left guard?
Wes Martin. I think he keeps his job. I think this coaching staff is just letting that left side of the line die on the cross for their sins at this point.
That's very possible. I don't know. Wes he hasn't impressed anyone so far from what I know. He's just kind of been there, which, I mean, sometimes in an offensive lineman, you just kind of want someone that's there. You don't really want
ranked at the bottom.
But he's
all offensive line.
He's really not good at all. And center,
James Reed, of course.
Schweitzer, I think he did a great job coming in. Really, really good job coming in and playing when Sheriff was out. And then right tackle, I would love to see Cornelius Lucas get some time.
Oh my God! You and all these conspiracy theories with the right tackle.
I'd love to get.
We're gonna go in at guard. We know.
I don't like Morgan. I know he's been very 50-50 throughout his entire career. He'll make a great run block, and then he'll suck 3 snaps off the edge and just let someone run by him.
I'm just surprised.
However, there was a very, very funny video of Isaiah Simmons trying to get by him. Morgan just picked him up and threw him, and it landed like 5 yards away. It was the funniest thing. I started cracking up.
Morgan has gotten in the shape of his life this offseason. You know, he's still standing upright. I know we're early in the year, but I mean, he looks good. I think he's as good as he's ever looked.
Also, something to know about that is the running back group really respects Morgan for some reason. All the young guys, like you have Gibb really respects him.
He's a leader. I know that.
Barber respects him. Everyone in that locker room respects Morgan, which is something to take accountable of or think about.
He's kind of taking that, spot of Trent Williams and his leadership among the offensive line, since he's kind of one of the other well-tenured guys there. Him and Sheriff have a very close relationship, and I don't see the team going out of their way to break that relationship up this offseason. But it'll be interesting to see if Brandon Sheriff, once he comes back, and stay on the field, especially with, the contract negotiations going the way they are. But the Browns may be loaded at wide receiver, but they also are at running back as well. They are what we wanted Adrian Peterson and guys to be with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb, almost the NFL leading rusher last year, taken away from him last week by Derrick Henry, and Kareem Hunt, Kansas City Chief exile. They've formed a 1-2 punch over there, man. That is extremely formidable. Last week, both of them actually had 25 fantasy points a pop. They were a huge factor in that win over the Bengals. Chubb had 7 carries in the red zone and scored on 2 of them. Does the Washington football team has what it takes to slow down this duo, Owen?
100%. 100%. I think that the biggest thing we're gonna have to worry about is Hunt on pitches. That's the simple thing. I think if Cameron Curl plays the flat the majority of the time, we'll be good. I really like Cameron Curl. I think he can smack Hunt around a little bit. Give him 1 or 2 of his leg. He goes to the legs all the time when he tackles, and it makes me so happy seeing his natural abilities there. And then I think this is going to be Apke's biggest game too, because Baker he likes to chuck it deep. So it's going to be one of those games that you're kind of like, okay, this is your make it or break it moment. Can you play deep for once in your life? Yes. Good. We know you can tackle the runner. We know you like to hit people. I think if Nick Chubb comes barreling at him, he's going to be aggressive. That's one of the things I don't see Apke do. He's not afraid of the runner. He's not afraid of the person with the ball. He'll go at them.
He likes the contact. He showed that very early and very often. I think that is a big reason this coaching staff respected him and put him in that starting lineup. But I feel like we've talked enough about Troy Apke. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, I don't see them having that same performance against the Washington football team in this defense. I just don't. But Baker Mayfield, that's an interesting name that you brought up because according to PFF, the Browns produced a 0.46 EPA per pass against the Bengals. That is their most efficient outing since 2018, which is Baker Mayfield's rookie season where he threw 27 touchdowns. Owen, are we seeing the Browns of old, or what happened against the Bengals sort of a smokescreen?
I don't really know. Honestly, I'm very intrigued because the Bengals don't really have that fantastic of a defense. If you think of their defense, you don't think of them as a top 15 defense. Maybe a top 20, but I'm not going to put them in a top 15. And so Baker Mayfield, yeah, we do have Chris back. I'm passing to him in a minute. But whenever I think of Baker Mayfield, I think of him losing against a really bad, winning against a really bad team, and then bringing the swagger and the confidence that for some reason he thinks he can call out haters with for some playing well against a bad defense. And then he can turn it into him having some type of championship run. He's like, haha, look at me. I proved all the haters wrong. He played a top 25 defense at most. Congratulations, bud. I'm not that impressed by it. But it's his confidence and his easily built momentum is what gets me scared when I think of Baker Mayfield, because he'll build momentum off of a bad win, which makes zero sense, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great game last week. I think a lot of that was oriented on play action, and the numbers certainly indicate that. Chris, do you believe that the former number one overall draft pick will step up to the occasion Sunday? I mean, he was 4-4 on design rollout plays, right at 80 yards and 1 touchdown against the Bengals, which, I mean, is an impressive performance. But do you feel like Baker Mayfield can only succeed in those circumstances, or do you feel like we're seeing the Baker Mayfield of old of 2018?
I think Baker Mayfield is overrated, man, and he's definitely going to fall victim to the pass rush. He's going to panic. He's going to make bad decisions. It's just not going to be a good day for Baker Mayfield. Even if they do come out with the win, it's not going to be because of Baker.
The worst number one NFL, the worst number one pick in the past, I'll give you 20 years.
20 years? That's Ryan Leaf's involved in that company. Man, you really don't like Baker Mayfield. Is it the Hulu commercials? It's the Hulu commercials.
Let me tell you that it's not the Hulu. I kind of like the Hulu commercials. Especially the one that this is Baker Mayfield's face, so not Baker Mayfield.
I'm completely cool with getting into this Baker Mayfield.
I don't know why.
So
I really like his Hulu commercials.
Y'all said I need to spend less time filming commercials, so Hulu got some rando to do it for me.
Take it from me, deep fake Saquon Barkley.
And me, Baker Mayfield's face on not Baker Mayfield's body.
It's that stinking Allstate commercial, or that the one where he's like, "Come on, we got to put all the seat covers on all the seats in the stadium." It just got me sit there for a second, like, how stupid! Like, this is just a stupid commercial. So the commercial might play a little bias in it. But no, I just really don't like him. I think that he has too much confidence for the level he plays at. He's not a good leader. He's a little toxic, from what I can tell. I think that his receivers only like him when he isn't stupid with the ball, which is very rare. For some reason, Juice Landry thinks that he can just randomly grab his thigh. Did you see that video floating around? That was so weird. Like that their entire group there of the receiving core and the quarterback is just so much. The personality traits in that locker room, just I don't understand how that will work well. It's just I'm not a fan of him. I think he has too much confidence and swagger for how he plays. I think that he makes stupid decisions with the ball. I think that he has the arm talent, but nothing else.
I mean, he's also gone through multiple head coaches in a very short span of time. Alex Smith had kind of the same start in San Francisco. You know, he went through a lot of head coaches before he kind of found his way as well. And I think we can all agree that Freddie Kitchens was an absolute joke of a head coach. I mean, how often do you see players going over to the other sideline after the game asking for them to trade for them? I mean, Kitchens had no control in that locker room. But when it comes to Mayfield, I can agree with you that he's very careless with the ball. It's just that he showed too much in that 2018 season, the 27 touchdown campaign. He showed that he has the tools to get it done. But I think his attitude is a big part of the reason that you know it's one of his biggest detriments. And I can certainly understand why that's a big criticism for him. I mean, after they beat the Bengals the other day, man, one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL, Joe Burrow pretty much outplays you. And he says, "Oh, we don't forget in the Mayfield household." You're 1-1, man. I like Baker Mayfield, but you're 1-1. You know, you've accomplished nothing. No playoff berth, never finished above 500. And another thing, Baker was not sacked last week either. So how many times does the Washington football team sack Baker Mayfield on Sunday? What's the over-under, Chris, on 4? 4 sacks over-under.
Over-under on 4? I would go over on that. I know we didn't really get much done last week. I think I set it at like 5.5 or something, and we all took the over. But so that might have been.
I took the under. I took the under. Don't shade me like that.
So Owen's the big winner. He should go to Vegas this weekend, but he's too young. Anyways, I think over is definitely safe. I think at some point, man, you just got to think all the weapons we have on the D-line. Baker's definitely not known for his escapability, even if he does have one, lucky play where is able to escape some defense. He's just not going to do it all game long, and we're definitely going to get to him. I would take the over on 4.
All right.
Someone blowing the dice. I'm going over, but only by half a sack. I think we hit that 4.5. But blowing the dice, hope it rolls right. Let's go.
How do you get 4.5 sacks?
4.5. How do you get 4.5?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're in the 4.5, 5 area. I say 4.5 because it's the in between of 4 and 5. That's just
So do you win if we get 4 sacks and 5 sacks?
See, that's a good question.
Ooh.
You got to pick a whole number.
Fine.
Do you have to?
If you're doing betting, if you're setting the line, you need to be in half.
He's too young to gamble, Chris.
Okay, but if you're gonna make the line, if you're gonna make the over/under line, it needs to be like 4.5.
We're not doing this.
No, we're doing it. We're doing it. I take what he says. It's gonna be 5. I'm going 5.
So you're taking the over.
Taking
the over.
All right. Well, we'll see if Owen Turner eats his words next week. So on the other offense, Antonio Gibson scored his first career touchdown as a member of the Washington football team. Instead, he got a lot more comfortable as he got more reps throughout the week, kind of got into a rhythm on Sunday against the Cardinals. Do you guys think they need to give Gibson more touches, or are we just at the right dosage of Gibson this early in the season?
I think MD needs a little bit more touches. I really like what he did against the Cardinals. I understand that he's mostly receiving back, but MD just showed something special. He showed the ability to weave it out of tight holes. That Gibson, from what I saw, there would be like one player in his way. He would get out, and then he would make something happen with the lanes he was given, which is an important thing he needs to do. But MD just he made his own holes there against the Cardinals, which is something important.
Absolutely.
that is something important that we've needed since AP has left, because that's all AP did, made holes. And so that's something we needed. I want to see him get a little bit more.
Chris, do you think Gibson gets more touches? Do you think Gibson should get more touches?
I think he should get more touches, definitely in the running game. But I really want to see what he can do at receiver. And
we haven't seen much of that.
I agree with that.
I'm not
100%.
saying he necessarily needs to line up at the receiver, but here brings an interesting point. If Sims is out for the game, does AG step up into that wide receiver role?
Ooh, okay.
Okay. AG does not, but this is a different conversation. I want to backtrack on something you said. Last pod, we talked a lot about how we found that Dwayne, that's a quote from you, is a quick slant. I think that Dwayne can also be a screen to Gibb. I would love to see some screen passes to Gibson right out, because that's get the ball out of your hands quick.
That's all we heard.
And roll with it.
Multifaceted back throughout all training camp, and we haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, we drafted him as a wide receiver, right?
If Dwayne's if his bread and butter is a screen pass, we got more problems already.
I mean, look at I know we talk about Justin Herbert, but I mean, look at them. I mean, it was Keenan Allen screen. That's a part of the NFL now. I mean, a lot of offenses are gimmicks, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Like the Cardinals.
Yeah, like the Cardinals. They're the Houston Rockets of the NFL over there playing small ball, throwing everything behind the line of scrimmage, trying to work the system. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that as long as we're moving the chains. I'd much rather that happen than Dwayne Haskins look like certified dog shit.
Plus, I'm not going to lie. It's fun to watch. Watching the ball carrier try and do something with it, it's a fun game to watch.
You give Gibson that open field, he's going to make plays. But, I mean, Gibson only makes plays if he can get past some of these studs on the Cleveland Browns defense, and they don't have a lot of slouches. They have 2 first-round draft picks in Miles Helmet Swing Garrett and Denzel Ward, who's absolutely locked down. They were top most of the run defense rankings after week 2, after virtually shutting down Joe Mixon, who's the top of a lot of fantasy draft boards. What does this mean for the Washington football team, though? I mean, they're already inconsistent with their running attack.
I don't think it does much. I think that we're probably not going to see. You know what? Actually, I think Gibb had like 100 yards, right? It was really quiet 100 yards, but it was 100
Oh no,
yards.
he did not have 100 yards.
He did.
I got
Who had 100 yards?
Nobody had 100 yards for Washington last week.
Terry,
that's who it was. It was a really quiet 100 yards for Terry. But I think we're going to see that again because if you think about it, him and Ward played against each other every snap at practice in college, and so it's going to be like iron sharpens iron again. I think Terry knows how to get out of Ward's way and get the ball from him, and so that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. But back to the run game. I don't think it's going to be great. I'm afraid of that defensive line. I really like Garrett, and they have some okay linebackers in there too. What's his name? There's this guy.
Mac Wilson's actually returning this week. They've had a pretty rough thing going there with their linebackers. They have Malcolm Smith, a couple other guys I can't name off the top of my head. I know they let Joe Sherbert walk. So, I mean, they're really hurting him linebacker outside of Mac Wilson, who was a late-round draft
I really
pick.
like Mac. I think
he is a good player. He's a good player, but he is coming back from injury, which is very important. Denzel Ward will have some help in the secondary as Greedy Williams and Kevin Johnson are also returning this week other than Mac Wilson. Oh, and you had some controversial comments about Greedy Williams last week.
What has he done?
What'd you say?
I said, what has he done? He's done absolutely nothing. The dude came into training camp, and in case y'all forgot, when he came into training camp, all the reporters from Cleveland were like, yeah, why did we draft this kid in the second round? He did not show up in big moments at all. He was supposed to be a ball hawk corner, but he constantly he wasn't opening his hips and he didn't have natural footwork, which is what you need to have if you're going to be a ball hawk corner. You got to know how to actually go get the ball. He doesn't do that. He plays okay zone coverage, but besides that, against a man like Terry or a man like Cam Sims, not Junior, but normal Cam Sims, Greedy Williams is going to be burnt to toast. I think that Greedy hasn't done anything in the league at all to have any respect on his name and should be considered a corner 4, if anything, skill-wise.
Oh, man. God, harsh words about Owen Smith of Catch the Blitz. My goodness. I do agree with you when you say that Terry's going to go off. Fun fact about Terry, according to PFF, he is actually tied with DeAndre Hopkins for the most forced missed tackle by wide receiver in the NFL.
5, right?
Yeah, right at 5. Don't say DeAndre too loud. Lana Collins might jump. But
or stand completely still.
Or just stand there. One or two.
We were just talking about Antonio and his carries. Brady Quinn came out and said that Washington needs to feed Terry McLaurin like the Falcons feed Julio Jones. Chris, how do you feel about this ideology? You agree with Brady Quinn?
We need to feed Terry McLaurin as much as we possibly can. And I've heard people say that, you don't want to overdo it because once you overdo it, you ruin him as a receiver because he's just going to get all the attention. But I kind of feel like based on our receiving core, he's gaining all the attention anyways. So force that ball to him as much as possible because we just talked about yards after catch. Terry's the one to do it if anybody on our team. Let him rack up the yak and let him tear down. Rack the yak, baby.
Yak!
Hey, let the yak rack the yak.
I love rack the
I
yak.
love that.
So, Owen, do you believe that Washington should go overboard and give as many looks to Terry McLaurin as humanly possible? I mean, ride it till the wheels fall off?
Yes, but I don't think Julio's the right. I don't know what type of games y'all.
Hey, that wasn't me. It was Brady Quinn. That dude's got.
I know. I'm
too,
going against Brady Quinn here. I'm gonna
supporting
say feed McLaren like they're feeding Ridley because Ridley has been going off recently. He's going completely dumb with his numbers. I think we need to let him get the ball. And most of the stuff that Ridley does is yak too. And so if we get McLaren on the short slant, on the curl route, on the comeback, let him get the ball and do something with it, then we're going to be special.
This is one thing I want to see Washington's offense come out with right from the get-go is tempo. Because,
that's something Scott Turner has not put in. So, yeah, 100%.
I mean, you literally see it's like a light switch. When you see this offense run up to the line, no huddle, that's when the success comes.
So much control because the ball gets out of his hands. In those 2-minute drill situations, that is when Dwayne Haskins at his best because that offensive line, he doesn't rely on them to let him make his reads, let him make his progressions. He gets the ball out of his hands quick, and he's throwing it to the best player on the field, and Terry McLaurin. He did that for one quarter last week, and look at the results they got. I don't know why we aren't doing it more. And some people say that Terry
is so like not trusting because of the new offensive scheme that he feels like he has to script everything.
Yeah, but I say I feel like if you go tempo, you lose your motion. Like a lot of times, if you're going tempo, you're going to lose your motion aspect of your offense, and you
But
can
doesn't
definitely see already that is like what Scott Turner lives for is
Doesn't that
putting someone
require
in
you to
motion.
have somewhat of a threat of a running game? I mean, that's why play action works out for Baker Mayfield so much because, you're worried Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the NFL, is going to blow by you. Or might I add his backup, Kareem Hunt. I mean, there's that threat of the running back. I just don't feel like teams fear our running game enough for them to respect our play action and for our plays to be as overly scripted as they are.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. I think that for some reason, even though it hasn't shown up on the field in the first 2 weeks, teams respect Gibson. And I think it's because they understand that AP is not on the team right now because of Gibson. The release of AP let kind of like a shockwave through the league. Everyone was like, yeah, AP is going to come back. He's going to be a great back. He had a good time last year with the team. He's only growing with a run-oriented coach like Ron Rivera usually is. With CMC, people thought AP was going to have one hell of a year, but then he got released and the league put on notice about Gibson. He has respect. He's constantly being looked at as a dangerous player on the field, no matter if you can see it in his stats or not. So that respect's there. That dangerous factor that Gibb has is definitely there.
I don't know, man. I'll just have to agree to disagree with you on that one just because I don't feel like this running game has shown anything special up to this point. I think Gibson has all the tools. And if there's a guy in that backfield that is special, it is Gibson. And I'm all for giving him more touches. Also all for giving Terry the ball as much as humanly possible. But people are saying that Terry can't have that success because of the inconsistency at quarterback. And one person who's very critical of Dwayne Haskins today on 106.7 was, which no shock there, was Chris Cooley. He spent 2 hours on the Kevin Sheehan show breaking down Haskins' performance against Arizona. Do you guys feel like people are being a little harsh on Dwayne after that week 2 performance? And they should weigh in his circumstances a little bit more. I know we talked about this a little bit last week. I mean, those guys on Sheenan have always been anti-Haskins. Cooley's always been anti-Haskins. Do you guys feel like Haskins is bearing a little bit too much of the blame?
Haskins has not been playing good. He's not been playing great. And I've been an advocate for the fact that you have to take away all the excuses that he had last year and look into the season as a new clean slate and base him off of this season alone. But you got to give him the benefit of the doubt at least a little bit. I mean, there's no quarterback that's going to succeed in the offense that he has right now. I'm sorry. Maybe Russell Wilson, maybe Patrick Mahomes, but you're talking about literally the top tier of NFL quarterbacks there. I mean, we watch Cam Newton. Everyone's talking about Cam Newton is having a heck of a season. Do you see how much time he has in the pocket? I mean, his receivers aren't coming open until 4 or 5 seconds after they snap the ball. I mean, that's where his yardage is coming. You plug him into Ron, and I mean, at one point in the offseason, that was a possibility that Cam Newton was coming to D.C. You plug him into this system, he doesn't succeed. I'm sorry, he just doesn't.
There's just not enough talent,
I think that last week we all kind of came to the same agreement that we just need to let him develop before we can make a final decision on if he's going to be the right fit for this offense long term or not. I need to see him week 8, and then I'll tell you if he's going to be good.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, all these analysts that are being so critical of him. I mean, look at Chris Cooley. That dude doesn't even have a job in the business right now. Him and Larry Michael sitting on the couch together. Chris Cooley's acting like he's Gruden or something. And he got Dan Orlovsky with his quarterback room video he just released. Dan, what are you going to teach Dwayne Haskins? How to run out of the back of an end zone? I mean, that's all you did when you were a pro. I mean, just seeing him and who's the car that sucks? Not Derek. Who's the other Carr? I don't even remember his name.
David
Carr, that professional punching bag who got drafted. He's on there every single week. Oh, well, this young quarterback would be better if he did this. I mean, I roll my eyes when I hear these guys who are just completely washed up trying to give these young up-and-coming players in the league advice. It always cracks me up. And we all know how Kevin Sheehan feels about Dwayne Haskins, and I will leave it at that, guys. So we're already at that time of the show on our pregame pod where we give our bold predictions for our week 3 matchup between the two 1-1 teams. So who wins between the Cleveland Browns and the Washington Football Team, and what are your bold predictions? Chris, I'll start with you before we lose you again.
I'm gonna go. Dwayne Haskins has a game. I'm telling you, this has got to be his. This has got to be his coming out party. I say he hits.
You've said this
It's got to
every
be
week.
bold. It's got to be bold, right?
You
It's
said
gotta
this
be
every
bold.
week, so you got to make it bold, bolder than last week, which you had him going like 350 or something.
That's my bold prediction. I was just saying that's what we finally get from. But that's my bold prediction. Dwayne Haskins. I'm gonna go with 3 TDs, 2 passing, 1 rushing.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Chris Fowler has Dwayne Haskins balling out against Cleveland. Owen?
Oh, this is gonna be difficult. I would like to see my man. No, I'm gonna go. Actually, why not? Cameron Curl gets a strip sack.
That's a bold prediction.
That's my bold prediction. He hasn't rushed once from what I've seen. I would like to see him get a strip sack.
If that happens, that is so oddly specific that I'll go ahead and say it's bold. I'll give you that.
Thank you. I'm gonna go with the oddly specific takes. That's just what I do. Oddly specific.
Before we get into our predictions for the score, I'm gonna go and give my bold prediction. I think I think Scott Turner and this offense and this organization has heard the rumblings about Antonio Gibson and how people want him to get more touches and all this stuff. I think Antonio Gibson has his coming out party and has 150 total all-purpose yards.
How many TDs?
How
many TDs?
I'm going to say just one. But I mean, 150 all-purpose yards is still incredible.
That's a nice fantasy right there.
Yeah, I mean, I got him on my fantasy team. Honestly, that's just wishful thinking for me. But I think this is Antonio Gibson's coming out party. I think he's going to be a big part of this offense, especially in a game where they're definitely going to have to score points. And like you said, maybe they implement more of the stuff out of the backfield with your screens and that stuff and kind of show us why we took a versatile guy like Antonio Gibson from Memphis in the 3rd round like that. So let's go to scores. Does the Washington Football Team win in Cleveland? Owen.
27-19, Washington Football Team on top.
I like that one. a lot. That's honestly more so the direction I'm leaning as well. Chris?
I was going to go 27-24, real tight ball game. Washington Football Team.
All right,
yeah, Washington comes out on top.
You got Washington as the 3-point favorites over Cleveland, so you both picking the Washington Football Team to come out on top. So I got to go 26-22 Cleveland Browns. I think we lose this week. I think that they showed too much last week that their offense is a threat.
Against the Bengals.
I don't think you could say it's against the Bengals all you want, but at the end of the day, our run defense
threw 60 times.
Our run defense has not shown up this season. You're letting, you can say including Kyler Murray all you want, but at the end of the day, you were facing 2 of the best running backs in the NFL on the same team, and our offense is not scoring points. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Hold on. Let me finish. What does that mean? That means that the defense is on the field for a long period of time, which means they get tired, which means Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to wear you down. This game is going to be won
That's why we have
lost in the trenches.
Linebackers.
You can rotate however you want, but if you got a bunch of bums out there, who cares?
Well, if all our guys are literally run-stopping linebackers, which the majority of them are, if you look at our guys like Ryan Anderson and Cole Holcomb, of course, I think of the 2 guys that are injured.
Holcomb's not playing this week. Ryan Anderson's probably not playing this week.
Yeah, because they're injured. But the rest of them, Davis probably isn't playing either. Okay, actually, no, we're probably screwed. But if our roster was healthy, I think we would have a chance. So, if those guys that didn't practice today, practice tomorrow, and then they end up playing, I think we got a good chance. If
RG3 never tore his ACL.
Don't go there.
Okay?
Don't go there.
You want to play that game? We can play that game. But you know what? On this podcast, we have been overly ambitious, overly hopeful. I have the Cleveland Browns stomping a mud hole in our ass.
No,
Maybe not
you two have been overly hopeful. I've had us losing against the Cardinals, and I had us losing by a good amount.
And you think this Washington run defense is going to stop
losing against the Cardinals?
I did too. I'm agreeing with you. I agree with you. I had us losing against the Cardinals.
Well, then you're just the only one that's overly.
I'm 2 for 2 right now.
Look, you guys can think we're going to win this game. You guys can say that we showed glimmer last week. We showed some flashes. But at the end of the day, we have a couple of pieces. But when it comes to playing a 60-minute football game, if our defense is on the field too much, they get tired. They're human. I don't care how much of a freak Chase Young is. If he's on the field too much, if this defensive unit is on the field too much, if the offensive pattern is is punt, fumble, punt, that defense isn't superhuman. It doesn't matter who you have out there. They are going to get tired. And this Cleveland Browns offense is built to wear you down. And I'm sorry, but at some point, things stop becoming dysfunctional. Jarvis Landry's out there. Odell Beckham Jr.'s out there. Austin Hooper's out there. Their stars started to go across the board. And I think late in the fourth quarter, we're going to see that deficit in talent, and it's going to bite us hard. So I got to watch.
Parker,
go ahead.
Grab a beer, take a drink, think who you're talking about. You're talking about the Browns. The Cleveland Browns. The I like to be on Browns. Literally, there's no... I can't do... It's the Browns. They have two good running backs who've just now finally shown up after 3 years. After 3 years, and it's only because Kevin Stefanski, I can't even say his last name.
Yeah, whatever. These names, my God.
I know, I'm failing. Kevin, because their OC from the Vikings, finally realized, oh wait, I can do what I've been wanting to do with Cook here. That's the only thing that's different.
And that's why we're gonna lose.
No, because two running backs aren't gonna end our team. Like, it's not gonna be the end of the world if two running backs hit the field.
This game is going to be won or lost by the offense, period. If Dwayne in this offense shows up and at least put some drives together, then we come out on top. But if they go 3 and out every time, punt, turn the ball over, then we don't stand a chance. I agree with you, Parker. Our defense is going to be tired if they're out there for the entire game, which is what happened last week. I mean, you saw them fall apart late, even though we didn't get blown out in the second half. It just, you could see they weren't as crisp. So yeah, I think that, I've heard Rivera talk about, they're going to definitely try to play to Dwayne's strengths this week, and they're looking at the film and they're looking at, what's worked and what haven't. I just have a feeling that Ron Rivera will not allow Scott Turner to stick with what has not been working. And even if you want to blame the fact that these plays could be good, but the O-line doesn't give them protection, it's still up to the offensive coordinator to make something work for the entire offense. And we've talked about Rivera and Scott Turner wanting to play to players' strengths, and we've always kind of assumed it's been the running backs. Whether the running backs can catch passes or run the ball, but I have a feeling that they're going to play to the offensive line strengths as well. And if that means not giving them much time to screw up, I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to find a game plan to where if the offense isn't, a powerhouse, at least they're going to put some sustainable drives together.
I mean, what we saw last week was definitely not sustainable. And Owen is right. There has been dysfunction with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I know we don't have a lot of room to talk as a Washington football team. If the Browns do win, it'll actually be the first time since 2014 that they've had a winning record at any point during the season.
Jesus Christ.
That is a crazy statistic. So to kind of piggyback off what Chris said, this will be our last point, is what member of the Washington football team, that can be a coach, player, anything, has the most pressure on them in week 3? Owen.
Week 3. Kevin Pierre-Louis. I think it's Kevin Pierre-Louis. And I think it's because he played so well last week. And it was because he could tackle, and he tackled the running back. Actually, I don't know what you were talking about. The only reason the Cardinals had a good run is because Chase Edmonds did okay, and Kyler Murray did great, and then Drake had 2 or 3 good runs, but besides that, he was quiet for most of the game. Considerably, he had a quiet game. Considerably.
5 yards a carry, though, as a defense is not a good number.
That's not, and it's because Kyler Murray, and it's because Kyler Murray. Chase Edmonds did too, but nothing incredible. Neither did Kyron. Oh my God, I need coffee.
It's okay, man.
Drake.
We're already a little bit over our time limit anyway.
Just a little bit. And Drake didn't have that incredible game either. So I think it's KPL. I think he needs to show that he can have consistency.
Okay, I mean that's a dark horse pick right there. Chris, who is your player of the Washington football team who has the most pressure on them going into week 3?
I mean, I think this is blatantly obvious, and it's Dwayne Haskins. I mean,
correct.
It is week 2, and half of the Twitter fan base is already trying to tank for Trevor. And I swear to God, if Trevor Lawrence ever wears burgundy and gold, I'm going to lose it. I will never root for that big nose.
Whoa, Jesus.
Whoa.
That
Okay,
man's
look, bro.
majestic. You need to put
Here's
some
something
respect
you don't
on
know
his
about me. I am a Clemson fan. That was
God.
Jesus Christ. My
okay.
God.
Look,
Why do we
my
agree
big
to
bro
ever
is
have
a full
you on?
ride on the team. I kind of have to support. I kind of have to support.
Oh,
I'm
you
sorry.
like Golden State? I get it. You're a Golden State fan too?
No. I'm a Suns fan.
He's calling you a bandwagoner, Owen. Look, Parker, that went right over his head.
I know. I'm not falling for.
No, he's so pure. Look at the way he said Suns. I mean,
I'm not falling for the
I like winners to I'm a masochist in like the matter of a second. So I agree though, Dwayne Haskins. I mean, you have people shining throughout the NFL right now. You know, this has been a big theme in our last two episodes, our last two podcasts. Dwayne Haskins has to make something happen. You know, this Cleveland Brown defense, you know, while they do have some pieces, you got Myles Garrett swinging helmets around, Denzel Ward locking people down, you got Mack Wilson returning. You've got pieces on that Cleveland Brown defense, but overall, they are very, very vulnerable. And you need your former first-round draft pick in Dwayne Haskins to show that he belongs in this league, no matter what the circumstances are. So I think all eyes are on Dwayne Haskins going into this Week 3 matchup. But as far as previewing that Week 3 matchup against the Cleveland Browns, that's all the time we got for today, guys. Make sure you leave a rating or review wherever you listen to us on. Speaking of reviews, I said on the last episode that we would read some of them on the show if they were creative, and someone accepted my challenge and just ran away with it. So you guys know I had to read this. Justin left us a review that said, Pat McAfee quoted them. Anytime Pat McAfee uses your content, you know it's going to be great. Just saying. Pat McAfee's like one of my idols, so when I read that, I mean, I lit up like a Christmas tree. He's referring to a while back. One of our stories actually made rounds on Pardon My Take, ESPN, Fox. You guys aren't familiar with that, go back and check that out. But great job by Justin. That cracked me up. That's going to be a tough one to top, but I got faith in you guys. So, like I said, leave a rating, leave a funny review. We'll read it on the show. Like I said, it's got to be good though. Got to be good. Make sure you give us a follow on all social medias at Washington Brawl. If you can't find them, click our fancy little link tree that Owen set up. Head over to www.brawlnetwork.com, read our Washington Brawl lead writer Dave Overman's latest on the Washington football team. Dave is taking a much-needed vacation this week. He works very hard. He'll be back next week. Dave, if you're listening to this, we love you, man. Hope you're having a blast on vacation. It's much earned. Also, while you're there, pick up some of the Washington Brawl swag. Rep your boys. Check this episode out on YouTube. As well as our Washington Brawl Madden 21 Game of the Week series, where your boy got absolutely cheated this week. Thanks, EA. We'll come to you guys immediately after we face the Browns with our analysis and post-game reactions, which I'm all hoping will be good ones, especially after last week, for the sake of our bleep button. Also, before we sign out, everyone wish a happy early birthday to Owen Smith. He's been killing it for us ever since he's joined the team. We love you, man. Hope you have a great birthday.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot. Honestly, you guys are family here, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We love you. So you guys make sure you wish Owen a happy birthday. But this has been the Washington Brawl podcast, presented to you by the Brawl Network.